Hey, this is Mel Aclaro, and I want to welcome you. What I want to do here is just give you a high level overview of just how to get started. And what we'll be covering here is just how to log in, give you an overview of the dashboard. We'll also talk about the files, where you can find those, how you upload some of your video files, and also some basic customization parameters and basic settings. In future videos, I'll show you how to set redirect options and actually put your display buttons in HTML, and also how to add image overlays and watermarks and so on. However, I think you'll probably get the gist of it. Even after this first video, you'll see that it's actually fairly intuitive, and actually half the fun is actually going to be testing out and see how the different settings affect your video, because as you'll see, it's not the kind of thing that you have to click and then wait a long time in order to see the results. You'll actually be able to see the results right away, so you can also experiment as you go along. So the very first thing that you'll get after you receive the login instructions from me is via email is you'll go ahead and log into your account. So we'll go ahead and do that here. Okay, and then if you forget your password, by the way, you can always reset that here. It will be system generated. So let's go ahead and sign in. Okay, and one of the very first things you'll see when you drop in is the dashboard. As you can see in the upper right here, you have the dashboard. There's also a files area, and then there's also upload. Again, in the full-featured version, you'll if you purchase Easy Video Player, you'll have the ability to set settings, and there's many more options available to you here. But again, for most of what you're going to need, you'll be able to do just fine with what you have here. There's a statistics area here where you'll be able to see total videos, the numbers of views, how many times people drop off, and so forth. There's also a quick upload area here for video, but there's also two other places that you can upload video, and that would be up here in the upper right. When we click on files, you'll see that there. And then also there's an upload area here too that you'll be able to see, upload videos. The other thing I want to point out is you do also have the ability to import videos from, say, YouTube or some other URL, and what you'll need is a direct URL to that video. So let's, for example, take a look at YouTube. So here's a video that I had. Okay, so this is one of the videos that I have. What you want, this is on YouTube. So what you'll want is, if you click the share button on any YouTube video, you know you have this short link here. But really what you're going to need if you want to do any of this is you'll just click the options and then click the long link. And it's this long link is what you're going to want to have. So we'll just go ahead and copy that, and we'll scooch back over to our Easy Video Player here, and we'll glue that into the URL area. You can give it a name. I'm going to just say test YouTube import. All right, and then you'll be defaulted to a single folder that you have as one of my clients. Okay, and then you can add another if you'd like, but here we're just going to go ahead and click import, and let's see what happens. Okay, so now that has been imported successfully, and what that has done is, in the same one step, basically taken us from the dashboard area where we uploaded that, but also then scooched us over to the files area, where we'll now be able to do some settings, to make some settings changes to your video. Now, I don't want you to get anxious and think that the only types of videos you can import into this is going to be those that you've already uploaded to other hosting sites, and that's not the case actually at all. Part of the point here is for you to be able to host your own videos so that it's away from YouTube, and also with a little bit higher quality by virtue of the fact that you don't have to go through another compression mechanism by uploading it to someplace like YouTube or Vimeo or Vidler. Even as good as their codecs are, it is still a second level compression for you. So what I want to do is let's just go ahead and finish this thing out. We'll go through these settings in just a moment. Let's come down here to the bottom and save this guy off. And what that does is whenever you save, you're complete with your settings, it saves off your video, and it drops you down into this area where you can then preview and grab your embed code. All of the settings that you had set in your control panel, will all be reflected in this embed code, which you can then just click, copy, and then from there you can just glue that into your website or your blog areas, or WordPress or whatever. Okay, so let's take a look at this for just a second and show you that that is indeed. So as you can see, that is indeed the video that you have on YouTube. So the implication is you can have videos on YouTube, and if you already have them there, you don't have to go through this extra step to go find them, download them all, and then re-upload them to this area. You actually can go ahead and set your YouTube videos to be your videos, and also then set redirects and so forth, and put embed codes and buttons and so forth in your video player. Okay, so that's pretty slick. So now let's go back into the settings area. What I want to do is go back into and make some changes here. So this little icon down here with the little tools shows that you can change video settings. You can also take a look at analytics. You can download a video, and then you can also delete that video from here. But let's go into the settings area. Okay, and so now we've dropped back into this settings area for this particular video, and you'll see the name of your video right over here. So now I had you uploaded a video, and let's go ahead and go through an upload process. So I'll come up to the right and we'll upload a new video, so that way you don't think that YouTube is the only type of video that you can actually use. So here I have a kind of a canned MP4 video that I use here, and I do, by the way, recommend using MP4 as your file format. So once you've selected the video that you want to upload, you can actually give it a name. So we'll just say test upload here, and that would actually change the file name. You can also leave this blank, and it'll just go ahead and adopt the name that's in the file itself, or the source file name. And then there's not a whole lot you can do here. As clients, you have this one folder area. So once you have all of that defined in there, you can also add some metadata in here. Not really required for you, since this metadata will actually will be hosted on my site. But when you if you were to buy your own easy video player, you do want to put this in here because it helps with the SEO, the search engine optimization for your site. So you can go ahead and safely ignore that, but if you want to help me out, you can also put your video titles and so forth in there. The other thing I would point out is you can safely ignore this area here. As a matter of fact, it serves you well to go ahead and ignore this. What this does is it actually says if you want to go ahead and host it directly off of a regular server, I'll just say an HTTP server, which is basically a progressive download, and you really don't want that. It's one of those features that is actually not advantageous for your viewers. What you want is to have a clean video that streams cleanly for them, and for that we're going to use Amazon's CloudFront distribution network. So I want you to actually deselect this, and by doing so, when you upload this video, the Easy Video Player will assume that you want it to be hosted on Amazon's web services, and then have a global distribution through their CloudFront network, which makes it a much nicer viewing experience for your users. Okay, so we'll go ahead and upload. There you are. You'll be returned to your settings folder, where you can then set the different parameters and so on. Okay, so here, if you have already uploaded other videos previously, you can actually click this button and say yes, you want to copy settings from an existing video. And what you'll be able to do is, if you have other videos that you've already uploaded, you can just go ahead and apply the same settings you use for that, and then begin from there and then do modifications. Okay. And then if we come down a little bit lower, you'll see that you can actually select some different skins that you want. The other thing you can do is change your width and your height settings. This little button over here will actually change and make sure that it preserves the aspect ratio. I happen to know this is a 640 by 360 video that I had uploaded, which is basically one of your standard HD video ratios and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit here, and then there's some additional options here that allow you to set whether or not you want the ability for your viewers to be able to define this to go full screen, if you wanted to do some auto buffering and so on. But because we're on CloudFront, all your videos are going to be streaming through CloudFront. Just go ahead and leave auto buffering off. You don't need it. As a matter of fact, I think if you turned it on, it will tell you that because you have CloudFront enabled, you don't really need it. So we'll keep that off. Enable shadows, puts a nice little shadow underneath it. Allowed for pausing if the person that's viewing it is going, if you want to allow them to pause it and so on. If you want it to autoplay on your site, click that. And then there's also some cookied autoplay, which has to do with some marketing efforts and so on. We can safely leave that as off as well. I typically don't like most of my videos on my blog to autoplay because it becomes annoying, so I'll leave that off for right now. Center the player, I typically like to do that. So it puts a nice little center tag and wherever you're going to be posting it at. And then also I leave off the pause when lost focus, which really just means if the person hovers their mouse off of the video, then it's going to pause. So I usually say no to that because I don't want it to pause when that happens. All right. The other thing that you can do is, if you notice this video, that's exactly how it'll show on your website. With like a little black bar or whatever colors you like to put here. So if you want to change it to like more of a bluish color, then you can put that in there. Actually, let me scroll down a little bit. So you would select a color, click the select button, and then that populates the code in that. And then after you save it, it'll be reflected in the in the player, but that's just basically the background. However, if you want to upload a splash image so that it displays with something nice in the beginning, like your title slide, you can do that as well. As a matter of fact, if you go to my blog site, you'll be able to see a lot of that in my videos. Okay, so you would be able to just find a nice little picture that you might want to put in there. Okay, and then before we end this video, I just want to show you this little area down at the bottom where you can define other behaviors for your video. That is, if you want it to show in a lightbox, which we'll cover in more detail in another video, whether you want to allow people to download your video, to share your video on different social sites, or if you want to allow people to embed your video. So let me just show you what these three behaviors allow you to do. So if you click allow downloading of your video and you say yes, what that will do is at the bottom of your player, it'll put this little button that allows people to download your video. Easy enough. So I'll say no to that. And then let's come over here to the right where it says allow embedding your video. If you click yes there, then it puts a little button at the bottom that says allow people to embed your video. All right. And then if you want to share it on social networks and so on, let's scroll down just a little bit more so we have some room here. So we'll click that. Now you have some ability to be able to define how you want this, whether you want these, give the ability, which is very powerful, for users to share your video on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Digit, or some extra sharing services, which actually gets a little bit busy, I think. If I click yes on that, let me come up to the top and show you what you get. So these would be all the extra sharing services. To me, that gets just a little bit busy, but it'll be to your preference. And these will work with your, even with a client account. I've already configured this. We are using my Facebook login, or my Facebook developer code, but that doesn't mean that it's all going to show up on my wall. In fact, the way these things work is when your viewers choose to share it from your website, your video, it'll be posted on their own wall, which is exactly the behavior you want because it is they who are sharing your video. But here's the cool thing, is that wherever they share your video, if you have some of these other call to action buttons in here, like a buy button or an opt-in form or something that you place in your video, when they share your video to others, your buttons and your opt-in form is what's going to show in the video as well, in addition to your own video. Okay? All right, so that's about it right now. In the next videos, we'll talk about some of these other settings that allow you to be able to change the behavior of your video, on what happens after the video ends, or also be able to insert overlays and buttons and watermarks and so forth, and I'll show you that in the next video. But for now, let's go ahead and save this video off. And when you save it, you'll notice those colors for the background that I had set appears in there. And if you had defined a splash image, that will populate in here as well. And then you can see all of the buttons that we had, all the share buttons and the interaction buttons down here in the bottom part of the underneath the control bar. And then here's your embed code. So you can grab this embed code, just copy it, and then you can paste that into your website. But you can also use the iframe settings here, or also the original object codes, which is kind of the rare case. What you really want to do is, if you can get away with it, is use the JavaScript. It says best choice, and part of the reason is because it's smart enough to know that whenever you make changes on the back end, even though your video is already embedded in your website, if you decide to go back in and make those changes and decide that you don't want some of these buttons, or you want different buttons, or you want a different splash image, and then when you save it, it'll actually, Easy Video Player will actually be smart enough to update your videos wherever they are embedded on other sites, even if somebody else had grabbed the embed code from your original video and embedded it on their site. Pretty slick. I hope you have a great time with this player, and you start seeing the wonderful benefits and the powerful benefits of its ability to be able to help you with your messages and your content development efforts. This is Mel. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.